Pat the Bunny. Pat the Bunny, and don't even go perverted with that because that's like a childhood favorite of mine, and I will kill you. So Pat the Bunny.
How would you go perverted with it?
Because you're a guy, and you would.
Big dogs are in the house!
Hey! The 84 jerseys out, man. I think this is going to be a fun ride.
Bye, Felicia.
Inside the lane, drive, left, broken by Punch! Oh my goodness! Where did he come from? A behind the back jam by the big team! This is not Detroit, man! This is the Super Bowl!
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Practice like this. Up. We up.
Straight cash, homie.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Clarksville bullshit, so.
Home run. Welcome back, Lou Collins.
Welcome back to Thunderdome for yet another Okafor or Towns Flip a Coin edition of Andy Must Die Minnesota Sports Talk. Kind of as Die types away in the background. I'm your not so humble co-host at Andy Carlson Show on Twitter, riding shotgun with my partner in crime, a woman who wonders why Glenn Taylor didn't send her to the lottery as a trophy fan, Die Murphy at Die Murphy MN on Twitter. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fantastic.
Actually, I'm totally fine with what Glenn Taylor did because it totally worked. So
it would have worked if he would have sent someone better because there weren't any other owners there. It was just him.
Really? No, I thought, was he really the only owner there?
Yeah, everyone else is either a player or an executive or.
Well, I stopped watching after, I mean, I was just all about where the Wolves were, and then I was like, who cares?
We're on Twitter at Andy Must Die, one word, and the website is andymustdie.com. And we jumped the shark a little bit, but as you all know, unless you've been living under a rock or don't have TV, internet, newspaper, eyeballs, our Minnesota Fightin Timberwolves do have the number one choice in the 2015 NBA draft, first time in franchise history. Get some, Die.
Ever. I was so excited. It was like, and I was prepared to be let down because, well, hey, that's kind of how that whole thing works out for the Wolves fans and, quite frankly, Minnesota sports fans in general. But it was awesome. And I was like well, I'm still prepared to bitch about how much I hate the NBA lottery, the draft lottery because it's stupid. I mean,
a lottery's awesome.
Well, no, it's not. It's stupid. It's like if you're the worst team, you should get the number one overall pick.
No, I think that just invites tanking.
No,
a la the Bucks.
It doesn't. Well, I mean, the Bucks were terrible anyway, though.
No,
I mean, come on.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I know.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Bucks were still terrible.
No.
To me, you find a way to make that work. You could, I mean, still NBA teams still tank, even though they're not guaranteed the number one. So it's not like it's preventing tanking. It's just you take your chances. It's kind of like gambling in Vegas.
I like the proposed solution where once you're eliminated from playoff contention, your winning percentage after that point determines how many lotto balls you get, and then lotto it. Because the fans deserve a competitive product. You can't tell me that like Knicks fans, Sixers fans all year, and Wolves fans towards the end after that hoorah KG game, and then that was a complete sham and a fraud, by the way.
So terrible.
Yeah, you can't tell me that was good basketball. People paying their hard-earned money, see a couple games a year, or the people who got season tickets. That's consumer fraud.
It is, and I would agree with you that if that's how they want to handle that situation, that would definitely be more fair than what they currently do. But I would still say to fans, don't pay money to see I want to swear, a piece of crap show. I mean, don't pay the money. Don't line their pockets. If they're going to, like the Wolves did with the KG thing, which was complete ridiculousness. I mean, the way they sold that, and I mean, they sold so many tickets and merchandise and whatever. I mean, it was a total heyday for them. Don't give them your money. If they're going to tank, don't give them your money.
KG is he's not going to play tonight. He's just so old.
Oh, not even that. He's not even going to show up. Like, he doesn't even need to be on the bench. He's the only player that they did not require when he was quote unquote hurt to be on the bench. He's the only one.
I still love him though.
I still love him too, but still it was highway robbery. I mean, it was awful.
You will remember the Wolves did have the number 2 pick in the 2011 draft, and we got Derek Williams. Get some.
There are times that it pays to be a Minnesota sports fan because you get that amnesia that women who give birth have. It's like you forget how awful, like, your pregnancy might have been, or birth, or what, and the, sleepless nights. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, soon to be new dad.
Yeah.
But Minnesota sports fans have that amnesia. It's like you forget at times, like how just cursed your franchises have been. So, I mean, I think that's what, you just kind of try to forget. That's how you survive. It's, oh God, what is it called? Like when something traumatic happens and you can't remember, it's like a defense mechanism for your brain.
Just like blacked out.
That's well, sort of, something like that. But yeah, basically you just can't remember. And that's what we do here. We try not to remember.
So it's random. I got the Wolves draft history up in front of me because why not? And when they came in as an expansion team in 1989, I think it was with the Magic or was it the Heat? One of the two. They had the 10th overall pick. That just seems weird. I mean, usually expansion teams get like the top 1 or 2 picks.
Well, the NBA doesn't love the Wolves. They never have. So, I mean, they have their favored children, and that's just kind of how it's been.
I suppose. Let's see here. We got, by the way, who was the first draft pick in Wolves history? 10th pick, 1989.
Shucks. I know that answer, but I blocked it out.
Pooh Richardson.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say Pooh.
Gotta get some Pooh,
and
yeah. And plus, we have such a fantastic draft history in the first round. 1990, number 6, Felton Spencer. 1991, number 7, Luke Longley, who went on to win a few rings. 92, the 3rd overall pick, Christian Laettner gets some. Let's see here. 93, number 5, Isaiah Ryder, a.k.a. J.R. Ryder, who I thought was 2 separate people as a kid. 94, Danielle Marshall.
But quite frankly, he kind of was. Oh, yeah. Danielle, yeah, for sure. 95,
number 5 overall pick. This little skinny 6'11" kid from Farragut Academy named Kevin Garnett. Kid from South Carolina. Who knew? 96, number 5, Ray Allen. Who traded for Stefan.
Right, exactly.
Let's see here. Who else? Zerbiak, Rashad McCants. There's a winner. Brandon Roy, unfortunate.
Oh.
Well, we traded him to Portland. They got him back. And, Corey Brewer, O.J. Mayo.
You're killing me.
Pekovic, 2nd round, 31st pick, 2008. Baby.
Who did we take over Steph Curry?
Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio in successive picks.
Well, and, Rubio, I still have, I feel like we're still okay there. He's not like the breakout star that they were all expecting. He has a role to play, and I think with the right support, he's going to be fantastic. But I mean, Johnny Flynn, man, Steph Curry, like Steph freaking Curry.
Well, I can sort of understand it. In hindsight is always 20/20, but coming out, he was a small kid. They were worried he couldn't get a shot off in the NBA. Coming from a small school, I think he only got 3 Division I scholarships. Who knew he was going to blow up into what he is now?
Well, the thing is, the Wolves never call it right. I mean, they never. I mean, Garnett obviously was.
You mean they didn't get it right with Wes Johnson?
No.
Wes Johnson.
I mean, it's just the history of F-ups by this, by this management team and coaching staff is like ridiculous. Ownership, it's crazy. Like it is. Someone was, I was watching, the draft lottery last night, and I don't remember. I mean, I was flipping through stations and stuff, but someone was like, you know what? why give the Wolves the number one? Because they're just going to screw it up anyway. And I kept thinking, oh my God, he's probably not too wrong. But, Kahn's gone, and, I trust Flip. I think Taylor trusts Flip. So we got to go Towns. I'm just saying, we got to go Towns.
All right, now hold on, just to reset. Later on in segment 2, we got Dan Cook from WCCO Radio and Twins blogger coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about the sport with the ball and the stick and the swing thing. It's pretty exciting.
Who actually aren't quite as bad as I was feeling like they were going to be.
No, it's like Major League. These guys ain't so freaking bad.
They're not so freaking bad. They got some stuff.
And we already jumped into some Minnesota sports news, so let's hit it with the sound drop.
Minnesota sports
there we
news.
Go. All right, so we already jumped head on into the Wolves because it is pretty much the only Minnesota sports story going on at the moment, besides Fusco possibly moving to left guard. But Di, you're already starting to make the case for Towns. Why Towns?
He plays defense, which this team sorely needs, and that is not something.
We got Peck. Come on.
Really, stop it. He's a big man whose scoring has decreased. Who does not play big. He doesn't play big. He's a huge man. People should be afraid of him, and they're not, because he plays soft. So I wasn't ever in favor of giving him that contract extension and paying him all that money, and now we are. And I quite frankly, Towns and Dang, I think we're in great shape. So whatever they have to do to get rid of Peck is what they need to get rid of Peck. And the reason I like I said, Towns over Okafor is because Okafor doesn't play defense at all. Did you watch the, Final Four, Sweet 16, the whole thing? I was not impressed by him at all.
But he's a winner. Towns is not.
Okay, well, here's the thing. He's a winner because his entire team is freaking stacked.
Now, dream scenario, we could pick one of these two guys at number 1, and then Tyus Jones, the pride of Apple Valley.
Stop it.
At the top of the second round.
Stop it right now. This team does not need another point guard. Nope. They absolutely do not. And I love Tyus Jones. He's a great kid. He's a huge talent, and I think he's going to be fantastic. There are some question marks. He is small, and I don't know. He probably could have benefited from another year in college, but when you're that hot, you have to make, hay when the sun shines, or whatever the stupid saying is.
Plus, it's such a tough bringing in the slums of Apple Valley, of suburbia.
I'm just saying, these kids only have a certain saleability. They're only valuable. Your average career is only so long, and you have to make money when you can make money, and I get it. You can always
career is
go
only
back.
So long. What are you talking about? Vince Carter is still playing.
Okay, well, some of them milk it longer than
Vince
they probably
Carter
should. But a season, a career-ending injury can happen at any time. So I'm just saying, I understand it, but no.
With medical technology nowadays, Sean Livingston's leg fell off, and they put it back on, and he's playing again.
I love Tyus Jones. I will go on record as saying I love Tyus Jones, but I don't want the Wolves to try and trade up to draft him. They're going to have to give up too much, and they have too many other pieces that they need to put together, and it would be wrong.
Sean Livingston's leg fell off. Fine.
Okay, really?
Kind of. Let's see. I think I'm with you on the Towns train. I haven't gone too in depth. I haven't done mock draft number 95.72.1. But it sounds like Okafor is a little bit more advanced offensively. He's got a whole bunch of great post moves. Is more of a true center. But like you said, no defense. He's a terrible free throw shooter.
Terrible.
And we've seen in the playoffs the whole hack a Jordan, hack a Dwight strategy is a liability for the team. Also, it's just terrible basketball to watch. Whereas Towns, he's 81.7% free throw shooter, phenomenal defender, like you said, and the kid's still growing by all accounts.
Right, and
he could end up being 7'2".
Right, and there's more flexibility in his game.
Yeah, there's the comps is Karl-Anthony Towns is Anthony Davis. Okafor could be a very poor man's Tim Duncan. Now, if either of those came to fruition, that'd be fine.
Like Walmart shopping, poor.
Yeah, and I think I do like the Towns idea. I mean, just having a defensive presence, which the Wolves hadn't had in a long time, because no one of that team plays defense, and just starting from there, and the offense can come later because we already got plenty of guys who can score.
Absolutely. I mean, him and Wiggins and LaVine, Rubio, I mean, dang, that could be deadly for a long time. I mean, they're so young.
Jang and Towns, the Twin Towers, bring it.
Love it.
And
you should trademark that.
Now, it is such an amazing young core team. You know, whether to take Okafor, whether to take Towns, it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's going to be a very solid, fun, young team. And then you got Garnett probably hanging around there for another year as like a de facto player coach, and he'll be able to help things out there. But will they be able to keep all of this together? I mean, Wiggins obviously going to be the key part.
Right. And I don't put any faith in, at first when they were bringing Garnett back, I thought, okay, why? And then my second thought was, okay, you know what? He's fiery. He's a true competitor. He's phenomenal. He's been a phenomenal player. He could really coach these kids up in a way that their regular coaches can't, because he plays. I mean, he's been there. But I haven't seen any of that from him. And so quite frankly, I don't trust that he's actually going to do anything for this team going forward.
Well, in basketball, I actually do buy the whole locker room guy. And I actually don't mind someone who's a little bit older, longer in the tooth, has wisdom that can pass along, because more than the NFL, because NBA, you got 12, 15 guys on a team, whereas the NFL, you got 53 plus practice squad, that's 63 guys. So that's why I never really buy the whole, we need to keep Jennings because he's a leader. We need to keep Greenway because he's a leader. But Garnett, bringing him back, not too huge of a contract, and you have this young, impressionable team that he can kick their ass a little bit. I'm perfectly fine with that.
I would be too, if I could actually be reassured that that's what he's actually doing, because I haven't heard anything that would back up the fact that he is doing that, other than collecting a paycheck and just kind of selling tickets, because I haven't seen it. Like that first game that he was back, I saw him on the bench, and he was going up and down. He was talking to these kids, and it was just, I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. And then I never saw him out there again. And if he is going to be that guy, then he should be out there. To me, he should be out there while they're playing. And I mean, I don't even know what he does for practices, but to me, he's just a figurehead right now. He's not contributing in a way that you would expect a veteran, successful player who is gritty and is a fierce competitor to kind of help mold these kids. I don't see that from him, and I haven't since that first game. I
think the big part will be if he does come back next year, the whole training camp, those type of practices. Because remember last year, GR3 and LaVine and Wiggins were having a dunk contest, like all willy-nilly, like little schoolyard kids. That ain't going to happen this year. KG's going to show you how to play some defense, or you're going to get punched, like Rick Rickert.
Well, I would hope that that's the case. I really do, because he has a lot to offer.
Speaking of a lot to offer, Wiggins and the number one pick, that would be kind of attractive to a guy like, I don't know, maybe Fred Hoiberg, maybe Tom Thibodeau. Come on. You're
speaking my language when you talk about Fred Hoiberg, because I love him. I have loved him.
You mean Aaron Eckhart? He looks exactly like Aaron Eckhart.
He kind of does. I think he's actually more attractive than Aaron Eckhart. But I mean, I've loved this guy for so long, and I put it out there. I have a couple of people on Twitter who regularly cover NBA teams, and they're like, yeah, he's not going to come there. That's a pipe dream. You got to stop smoking whatever you're smoking or whatever. But I still hold out hope. I mean, right now that college job is attractive, but I don't know. I got to think at some point a guy wants to take a shot at the NBA, and why not come here and work with these amazing young talents? And, let's let Flip be GM and not coach. And it would be ridiculous. That's what I'm asking Santa for Christmas, is Fred Hoiberg for Wolves coach. Or if I'm good, which is, not even a 50-50 shot, but hey, I'm going to do my best.
Or Tom Izzo.
Yeah, Izzo's not going to come here.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't feel it. I don't think he'd come here. Hoiberg has the emotional attachment here. Izzo doesn't.
But him and Flip are friends.
Well, okay, everybody's friends in the NBA. Or
That's fair enough.
So what?
What about Thibodeau?
Still on Hoiberg. Still think that's the best bet for the best bang for our buck. I think he's the one that they have the best shot at.
I think Thibodeau could get this team to play defense, but
Oh, I think so too. I just think if you're being really honest about, okay, nobody likes living here in the winter. I mean, let's just put that out there. I mean, even there was talk that Towns wanted to go to the Lakers because, it's LA and the Lakers or whatever. But the Lakers are a hot mess. I don't see why he would want to go there. Whatever. Kobe's done and washed up and whatever. It's a tough sell here. And so that's why I think the emotional attachment that Hoiberg has is what they're going to be able to count on to reel him in and give him the head coaching job.
Speaking of hot mess.
Oh, good for you.
Derek Carr may need surgery on the ring finger of his throwing hand. So you know what that means, Di.
Ponder time!
Ponder is going to start. He's going to resurrect his career under Musgrave. And since he signed a one-year deal, he's going to be the hottest free agent next offseason. Christian Ponder.
And then you know what? Sam can unblock the 50 million people she's had to block because they've been asshats. So, good for her.
Their daughter is amazingly adorable, though.
I don't follow that, but I'm sure. I mean, they're two very good-looking people, so I would imagine that their child would be very good-looking.
All right. Speaking of two very good-looking people and their prodigy, that's coming up in die time. But first, a PSA, if you will. Vikings bricks warning. As you remember, the Vikings, a couple months ago, be like, hey, we're going to sell these bricks and pavers, and we're going to put them leading up to the new stadium, and it's going to fund the little park area around there. It's going to be such a good time. But this is from Paul Westmeyer of the Pontiac Daily Leader, Pontiac, Illinois, not Pontiac, Michigan. Quote, personalized pavers that once lined Clark and Addison Streets near Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs, have been found around Pontiac, perpetually coming from the nearby landfill. The bricks have been billed as permanent fixtures by the Cubs organizations when they began selling them in 2006. The Chicago Cubs began selling the pavers near the holiday season in 2006, inviting fans to purchase brick pavers on which they could engrave personalized messages up to a maximum of 3 lines and 15 characters per line. Prices varied, but were typically around $160. Vikings selling theirs from $160 to $360. And remember, Wrigley Field going through all these renovations, and management has come out and said that the pavers were meant to be replaced somewhere else in 2016 for the opening day, but they ended up in the landfill. Di, if you were one of these people who bought one of these pavers for your beloved Chicago Cubs, how would you feel?
I would be really pissed off. I mean, my husband and I have pucks in the puck wall at the X for the Wild. Of course I'd be pissed off. I mean, you're paying good money. And quite frankly, the Cubs have been so bad for so long that they should be worshiping at the feet of their fans that want to actually pay money to be a part of that. And you preface this by saying, warning to the Vikings or whatever. The Vikings would at least have the decency to have a truck come in at night, load it up, and drive that shit down to Iowa and not throw it in the local landfill because, Slick Rick. Cubs, I mean, I don't know. I would probably start a riot and burn the stadium down. I'm just saying.
Why wouldn't you destroy the bricks?
What?
Why wouldn't you destroy the bricks if you were taking them out anyway? No, why wouldn't the Cubs destroy the bricks?
I don't know why they did. It was like if you tell people you're going to be a part of this and it's awesome, and then they're just there. I mean, I don't know. That's just looking inside a riot.
Because when they say permanent fixtures at Wrigley, you think that would be forever, since they never do anything to Wrigley except they put in a giant ugly ass jumbotron now. But the Viking Stadium, who knows? 20 years is going to be outdated. I mean, the dome was state of the art when it came in, and now it's gone. So when Vikings fans, it's kind of a neat thing, and yes, it'd be cool to go to the stadium. Oh, there's a little brick there for little Jimmy, but just remember sometimes circumstances change, and maybe these forever bricks won't be forever.
And I get that, but you know what? They should have given people the opportunity to come and get those.
Get your brick.
Seriously, they paid for it. They should be able to have it as. I mean, I understand what you're saying. A stadium isn't going to be relevant for 50 years or 100 years. And hello, Murphy. Sorry. He's very
Murphy
upset
disagrees.
about this. He's very upset.
Buy me a brick, damn it.
Maybe he had a brick there, and that's why he's upset. I'm sorry, Murphy. We'll find your brick. But I think they should have really given the fans an opportunity to come and get those bricks.
I agree. Hey, if you're a Vikings fan, you get a replica brick, and you can buy a personalized display case.
Oh boy. I can only imagine what they're asking for that.
Varying from $160 to $360.
Well, yeah, because, even their seats are like ridiculously expensive. I might go to one game. And I went to, growing up, I don't even know, like probably dozens and dozens of games growing up. My parents were season ticket holders at the Metrodome for many, 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 many years. But I will probably get to one game at the new stadium for what it costs.
And it'd be
just one.
It'll be a great game.
I would rather watch on TV. I mean, football is one of those games that I really kind of would rather watch on TV, or at least for the NFL. Like college football's different.
Especially since you can get a 60-inch TV at Walmart now for like $250.
I have a big ass TV, so there we go.
How big is big?
I think it's 55.
Oh,
I mean, that's big for the space that I have.
Wait. All right, so hold on. So when I put out 60, you're like, I got a big TV. Let me tell you, it's smaller than the number you just put out there.
I mean, who has a 60-inch TV? Seriously.
I don't know. Single guys?
That live in their parents' basement?
Probably.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm not a single guy that lives in my parents' basement.
All right. Speaking of parents, we got a little die time.
Die time.
You know you want it. All right, so Die, you had some words of wisdom for me. Why don't you tell me what you got?
I do. As you may or may not know, Andy's going to be a first-time dad very soon.
Immaculate conception.
Okay. So I thought I would
Franco
put together... Stop it! Zip your mouth.
Sorry.
See, this is what you need to learn. Shut up. That's the first rule. All right. So first rule is of parenting and being parents together is if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So make sure mama is happy, whatever that is. And it might seem crazy because like pregnant women and just shortly after you give birth, your hormones are so like crazy that you're literally a crazy person, but you think you're not a crazy person. So just indulge that and just, don't make her feel like a crazy person. Okay? That's the first rule.
Yeah.
When changing diapers, always cover up. Like when you put the clean diaper under the dirty diaper, cover up. Now you're having a girl, so it's not as important, but after being peed on one too many, for the first time, you learn that. And then if it's like a blowout, breathe through your nose. That's how you get through that. Just breathe through your nose.
Oh.
Give mama a break as often as you can. So, whatever you need to do, change diapers, whatever. Nap. Okay. So I was given this advice, nap when the baby naps. And it is the most useless piece of advice I have ever received as far as parenting, because that's the only time you can get shit done is when the baby naps or is baby sleeping or the baby's napping. So don't even listen to that. My next piece of advice is start reading to her now. If you haven't already. Like if you're reading. Huh?
Yeah, been doing that. Wife is
awesome. Love you.
Reader.
Your wife, awesome. Love it. Fantastic.
Like one of the baby showers, the theme was books. So we have about like 60 kids books now.
Love it. And if you need advice as far as books, you got to hook up right here. If tuning into the Teletubbies gives you a couple hours of sleep in the middle of the night, just freaking do it. Like it looks like you should be high as F while you're watching it, but just like if the baby loves it, whatever the baby loves and can get you a couple hours of sleep, do it. And then getting a baby to sleep in their own crib, because like we started off with baby in the bassinet in the bedroom because it's easier to get up in the middle of the night, whatever. It sucks, but eventually they figure it out, and you just got to kind of let them cry that out. Okay, so I was like very anti-pacifier with my kids. I was like, nope, not going to give them a pacifier or nook or whatever. After you have a kid that cries for like 2 hours straight every night for like 3 weeks, I sent my husband to the store to buy every frickin' nook he could get his hands on at Target just to see like if we could get this kid to stop crying.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So I would have loved a nook at that point. So like, don't be that parent. And the last thing I have is sleep deprivation is real, yo. I mean, it is crazy ridiculous. There was a point where I had gone to Babies R Us because my daughter and son, well, this was with my daughter, but both my kids had horrible reflux. And so we were trying all kinds of like soy formula and different nipples for bottles and all kinds of things. And I was sitting at a stoplight after picking up some more bottles. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if I could just get in like a bad enough car accident that it doesn't hurt me, but they want to keep me in the hospital overnight just for observation, that would be freaking awesome, because like a solid night's sleep would be amazing. So if you ever start feeling like that, call me up. I've been there. I can talk you through that. And those first few months suck, but it's the best thing you'll ever do with your life.
I feel like a lot of these are vaguely, or not vaguely, but specifically for Di.
No,
like the whole, I can veer into oncoming traffic to get some sleep.
That was probably mostly me, but I mean, seriously, with Maddie, my second, mini-me, if she had been first, she would have been an only, because we had to feed her every 2 hours, and we had to keep her upright for a half an hour after, so she didn't like spit up everything. So like you're getting like an hour and a half, it was crazy. It was like 4 months of awful, like terrible. She's the sweetest, most amazing kid, and I don't regret it for a second. But when you're in the moment, you think, what the F have I gotten myself into? And I'm just letting you know that it gets better.
Does it get better?
It does.
Okay.
Although now I have a middle schooler and it's getting worse. So, let me know when you hit that stage, because I can help you through that too.
Awesome. And I know you can't hear this, Di, but we're going to break on a very special dedication to Di Murphy. She'll have to listen to the podcast. We'll be coming back. And hey, thank you for all of the salient advice. I'm sure that you'll have tons of it also in the future. And I don't know, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this adventure.
I'm very excited for you and the missus. And it's an amazing thing. It's hard. It's very, very hard, but it's the most rewarding thing you will ever do.
Absolutely. We'll be back with Dan Cook of WCCO talking a little Twins. Di's gonna pee, and we'll come back, close out Andy Must Die episode 15, BRB. The Purple for the Win podcast is your one-stop shop for the team you hate that you love. That's right. Dedicated to the pain and pleasure that is the Minnesota Vikings. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube for our weekly and bi-weekly mediocrity. And, of course, there's always purpleftw.com. Because, aside from nipple clamps and chains and whips, cheering for the Purple People Eaters is probably the most pleasurable pain you can experience on this planet. So come on in. For the mediocre analysis and the more mediocre humor, purpleftw.com. That's right, purpleftw.com.
Straight cash, homie.
I'm back for segment 2 of Andy Must Die, episode 15, Minnesota Sports Talk, kind of. I'm just trying to get over the whole Di covering up advice, because I didn't get it at first, but now I get it.
Yeah, well, if you have a boy, it's especially important.
Because it's a weapon. It's like a fire hose.
It's all over the place. It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it's bad.
All right, now, joining us on the phone is Dan Cook Twins blogger at WCCO.com, as well as WCCO radio coordinator. And you're coming into this conversation cold, but you probably kind of get the gist of what we're talking about.
I got two nephews, and so it literally took me about 3 seconds to figure out exactly what you guys are talking about. So, yeah.
There you go. Well, at least thanks for joining us and our shenanigans, and hopefully you have a good time this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, now first off, the question I wanted to throw out is very serious, very topical. Who's your favorite Twin of all time?
Well, I grew up idolizing Kirby Puckett because my young formative years are right as the Twins were doing the '87 and '91 World Series. The older I get, the more and more I got to appreciate Harmon Killebrew. So right now my answer is probably Harmon, but Kirby's a close second.
We talked about your love for Ken Herbeck, almost borderline restraining order-ish. But who's your number two?
Oh, God. Oh, that's tough. Mickey Hatcher. I love me some Mickey Hatcher.
Who?
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't know who Mickey Hatcher is.
Come on, Dan, bail me out.
Well, and if you're not a diehard Twins fan from way back, I can sort of understand not knowing who Mickey Hatcher was. Sort of a DH pinch hitter type guy for the Twins for a time, real cut up in the dugout. And I remember, was it when Blyleven was getting put in the Hall of Fame and was out throwing out a first pitch in a tie, and Mickey came out, I think he was with the Angels at the time, and he had a pair of scissors from the trainer's kit, and he cut Bert's tie off. So that's sort of his sense of humor.
He's a character. He is a character for sure.
He's literally a cut up.
Literally.
But Butch Weiniger too. Like that's another one of my. I mean, I go way back though. Like that's my time when I played.
This is unfair since I'm a younger Twins fan. You could just be making up names and be like, "Oh, remember Bob Mardiger? Yeah, he was fantastic. He had a great whip."
Well, and if it's 20 years from now, then Diane's going to be picking a guy like Denny Hocking, and people have no idea who she's talking about either.
Oh, I love Denny Hocking. I love.
Denny Hocking follows me on Twitter. He's awesome. Yes, he's fantastic.
Is he only awesome because he follows you on Twitter? Or
no, I always kind of liked him. I mean, we've had a lot of guys that have been on the team that have been just like great guys. Maybe not like the best players of all time, but we've had a lot of really good guys on the team, and he was one of them.
Yeah, I like the guys who you would love to go out and have a beer with. Ron Coomer would be one of them. Herbeck, obviously. Jack Morris, you probably have to do shots with and then get in a few bar fights, but that's okay.
I could totally do that.
You might actually end up in a fight with Jack Morris, just based on his personality. But I know Jack a little bit. He's a great guy. I'm not ripping Jack. He's a super, super guy. But it takes a bit to get to know him. He's slow to trust people. So
he's got a little bit of the Sam Elliott in him, like the cowboy desperado look. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah, very much. He's a big outdoors guy. Loves hunting and fishing a lot, and you definitely get the feeling he'd rather be, out in a deer stand somewhere than hanging out with a bunch of people, at some sort of celebration or something. So.
All right. So Dan, let's talk about the current crop of Twins. The pleasantly surprising competitive team. Twins are 22-17, hanging with the Pirates tonight, tied third, 3-3, bottom of the eighth. What's been the deal with this team, and why are they not so bad?
Yeah, you sort of came into the year expecting that the offense would be there. I think they were seventh in the majors in runs scored last year, and you add a Torrey Hunter to help your lineup a little bit. So I wasn't really so much worried about the offense. To me, the biggest surprise so far this year is the defense, and I say that obviously that first week of the season was just horrible on every level. But they got it turned around when they started catching the ball a little bit. Coming into the year with pitching and defense really the big key. Could they get enough out of their starters to save their bullpen, and could they catch the ball when the opposing team was putting it in play? I'm still not really sold on their rotation just yet. I still think they're putting a little too much pressure on their bullpen. I think they've only had 15 quality starts this year, which is not a huge number when you're talking about a 40-game range. But they've been catching the ball a lot better after that first week, and I think that's made a big difference for them.
Di, what you got?
Well, after the start they had, I was prepared to pretend that we didn't actually have a professional baseball team here in Minnesota because it was looking that way. Very surprised by, as Dan said, with the pitching is a little suspect, but the defense is much better than I was expecting. I wasn't super worried about the offense either, so I get that. I don't know. I'm still having a hard time getting super excited about this team because there's not a lot of exciting things about it. So sell me on this team, Dan. What should I be excited about?
Well, the thing with this club right now is I get what you're saying. You don't want to get excited about this year. As much as they're playing better and they're in a better position in the division, to expect this team to be a playoff team this year is probably expecting too much. But what you're seeing now is the potential, right? I mean, you've got Buxton coming. You've got Sano coming. There's pitching coming. Whether Alex Meyer is ever really going to be what you'd hoped he was going to be, that's still kind of up in the air. But Barrios is down there. This Chinwei Hu kid that just pitched at AAA for him on a spot start. He looks like he might be a guy that you can count on in the rotation. So they've got enough pieces coming that with what you're building right now, it's going to be a competitive ball club here very, very soon. If not next year, within a couple of years, I fully expect this club to be competing for a playoff spot.
I feel like we've been in that holding pattern for a couple years now. I feel like, these young kids are, they've been coming up or going to be coming up, and that's what we're pinning our hopes on. And it feels like we've been waiting for them forever. And I'm sure it's just because we're impatient. Certainly I don't know enough to dare declare that they should be up here now. But, it just feels like this has been a long time coming.
Well, it has. 490 loss seasons will do that to a fan base for sure, right? It'll make you impatient. And I totally get where fans are coming from in that regard. I think, there was a lot of things when Terry Ryan stepped away and Bill Smith took over as GM, a lot of things kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. And Bill Smith's a great guy. I don't want to rip him, but there were decisions that were made during that period of time that set this franchise back. And as much in terms of the farm system and the drafting as anything else. And that's turned around over the last 3 to 4 years since Terry's come back. So you're getting back now kind of to the point where you should have been 4 years ago. And it's unfortunate that happened, but it does happen. So, I get the impatience that people are having with Buxton and Sano. They want them here now. Both of those guys essentially missed all of last year in terms of their development. And so while they're both starting to heat up, Buxton's had a ridiculous month down at AA, and Sano's not that far behind him. They're close. They're very, very close. I'd be very surprised if we don't see both of them here by the end of this season. But you want to make sure that when you make that call, that, okay, we're going to bring those guys up, you want to make sure that it's the last call you have to make with those guys. Those guys are so talented. The next time they get called up should be the only time they ever get called up. You don't want to end up with an Aaron Hicks situation.
Right, and there's none of this back and forth.
But
right, no, I was going to say, that's exactly what I was just going to say. You don't want to see that happen because that's destructive. It's destructive to the player. It's destructive to the club if they're backing up, up and back, up and, down and back, down and back. It's not productive. So I understand that they want to be very careful and they want to make sure that it's. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you're just breaking up a little bit. It's tough. I don't want to make that comparison. I hesitate to make that comparison only because, Sano and Buxton are far, far better prospects than Aaron Hicks ever was. And Aaron Hicks is a fine prospect. He's a guy that probably should, if he continues to develop, should be an everyday major league player for somebody. But we're talking about potential superstars in Buxton and Sano. So you would hope that they're a little bit better able to handle the big leagues when they get here. But it just shows that, there is a certain crapshoot element to it where you don't know how a guy's going to handle that promotion until he does it. So you want to make sure he gets as much development in as he can in the minor leagues before you go ahead and pull that trigger.
Speaking of guys who are coming up to the big team, Irvin Santana, biggest free agent signing in team history, is finally going to get to play here in a couple weeks. What should Twins fans expect, and what does Irvin bring to the table?
Well, the honest answer is you don't know what to expect, because this is a guy, obviously, who's going to have sat out at half of the season. He's never had to deal with anything like that before. The worst case scenario, you go back to last year when the Twins bring in a guy like Kendrys Morales, who had sat out half a year, not for a drug suspension, but just a free agency deal. And he gets in here in the first week, he's great, and then he falls off the table and they have to move him.
That's the best month ever.
Right. I mean, so you don't want that scenario, obviously, and I would expect that's not the case. I had really high hopes for Irvin coming in at the start of the year before the suspension news came out. This is a guy that had pitched well at Atlanta last year, but had a really good year a couple of years ago with Kansas City. And you would hope that bringing him back to the American League, where he came up with the Angels and spent the bulk of his career there. So getting him back to the American League, where he's a little more familiar with the hitters, that he might be set up to really be a solid number 2 guy. So you certainly hope that that's some of what he brings, but there's going to be an adjustment period, because when you go from all the working out and all the playing that you do in spring training to having to shut yourself down for half of the season, there's no good way to maintain your readiness while you're not at the ballpark every day and you're not in game action. So it's going to take him a bit. He gets to work out for a certain amount of period of time in the minor leagues before he's eligible to come back and join the big league roster. So hopefully that helps get him up to speed a little bit, but you really don't know what you're going to have when you get there.
It's a good way to maintain his readiness? Steroids.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
He didn't even appeal. Go ahead.
No, and his explanation, I don't know what was in this protein shake that they gave me down in Latin America, whatever it was. Doesn't hold a lot of water for me. Look, here's the thing. The great unspoken secret of PED use in baseball right now is it works. Okay, he lost a half a season. He lost a half a season's pay. He still got a 4-year deal with over $50 million from the Twins. So if he's looking at coming up to his free agent year saying, I want to hit it big in free agency this year, I can take this stuff. I'll pitch a little better. That'll add, 5 or 10 more million to the contract that I'm going to sign. Well, if you give up some of that in terms of a drug suspension, if you get caught, so what? You're still going to make a ton of money. And right. I don't know how you fix that in baseball, because you can't bang a guy for life on the first offense, but that may be the only way you truly ever get this stuff out of the game.
And just to play devil's avocado on that, when I was growing up with the whole McGuire and Sosa race, yes, everyone was all juiced up, but it was kind of awesome.
Yeah, we loved it at the time.
Yeah.
We loved it at the time. And the problem is that you can't take it in isolation, right? That stretch of time was a ton of fun, and everybody enjoyed watching those two guys chasing the numbers. But when you start then comparing what they did to what Hank Aaron did to what Babe Ruth did, it all falls apart. And one of the things baseball banks on more than anything else is its rich and deep history. No other sport has the kind of history that baseball has. And when you start messing with that, you start messing with what makes baseball special. I think that's why so many people, and baseball's faced more complaints about PED from fans and other people than any other sport. You don't think there's PEDs in the NFL, all over the NFL right now?
Oh, hell yes. All over the
HGH, baby. Yeah.
Right, but nobody cares. It doesn't affect the history of the game the way that it affects the history of baseball. So
it's shameful. I mean, I will say, just as a fan from a very young age, it disgusts me that these guys, Bonds and Sosa and McGuire, are in the record books, because they shouldn't be. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but to me, it's disgusting that gets put out there when you look at what the men that came before them did without all of this pharmaceutical help.
Yeah, and I'm not an asterisk guy, because it's impossible to know what everybody else was doing. I mean, how many of the guys that were pitching to Barry Bonds when he was hitting all the home runs while he was on steroids were also on steroids, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that was the biggest revelation when the lid sort of came off the PED thing, was we all assumed it was just the big bulky batters that were doing it. It turned out there was a ton of pitchers doing it, and So you don't know who did what. You know, the guys that get caught should be punished. Absolutely, I'm not arguing against that at all. But to try and go back and adjust the record books and adjust statistics based on who you do know was doing it versus who you don't know, that's a tough place to go, and I'm not willing to go there.
Yeah, and I also feel really bad for guys who played during that era who may be clean, except they're always going to have that shadow of suspicion. Guys like Bagwell, Piazza,
sure.
etc.
Yeah, and that's where the Hall of Fame voting gets to be tricky. It is, on the one hand, I don't find myself very much outraged that guys like Clemens and Bonds aren't getting votes. On the other hand, when you get to guys that were just suspicious, and you're right, Bagwell is the perfect example. There's no evidence at all, other than he was a big bulky guy who hit for power, that says that Jeff Bagwell did anything in terms of performance-enhancing drugs. And yet, it's sort of been held against him in terms of the Hall of Fame voting. And so when you let the writers willy-nilly choose whatever they want to do in terms of applying criteria to guys, whether they're eligible or not, it gets tricky.
Yeah, it's not like Ken Caminiti where he's like, all right, fine, I did it. I did a lot of it. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. There are guys that that did it. And like I said, I have no problem with those guys being punished. But, how we're going to do that and who gets to decide that they're going to do that, that's where it starts to get more difficult.
Di, would you ever do steroids?
Well, I mean, I had a hearing loss in my right ear, and so they did actually prescribe steroids for that.
HGH, come on.
They did not actually do that because I don't ever want to be like super muscular woman because I think that's kind of gross. I mean, I would love to be like, super tight and fit or whatever, but, I'm 45 and at this point I don't give a hell. But yeah, I mean, no, I would never want to be like super like those women that are like bodybuilders and they have like these huge like bulging muscles and like big veins and yuck, gross. No. Mm-mm. Nope.
All right, so let the record show Di doesn't want to be veiny. But she
right,
is
I do not want to be veiny.
Very vain. Yeah. She's so vain. She probably thinks songs about her. Dan, one quick question about another player who many Twins fans do consider vain, Meyer. He's playing okay, and is the overall vitriol that Twins fans have had towards Joe Meyer since he signed the big extension, is that overblown at this point, or is that valid?
No, it's overblown. Look, fans, the year that he had prior to signing the deal was the year that fans thought he was going to have going forward. And it's probably the year that the type of year that the organization thought he was going to have going forward. So in that regard, it's fair because he hasn't come close to those numbers since then. But where it gets overblown is after a point, Joe Meyer is who Joe Meyer is. That contract's been signed, that money's been guaranteed, it's sunk cost. So, okay, he's not going to be the guy that we hoped he was going to be. So after a point, you sort of have to accept him for who he is, oh, by the way, the best hitter on your ball club. When you look at his numbers, he hasn't been as healthy as maybe you'd like him to be, but he's been healthy enough to qualify for batting titles. And when you look at the numbers he's had over the last 4 or 5 years, he's the best hitter on this ball club, flat out. So when you start digging into what's wrong with the Twins, Joe Meyer isn't virtually anything of what's wrong with the Twins. It's not like he's blocking anybody defensively. It's not like he's a hole in the lineup or a hole defensively. He is who he is, and he's not who you hoped him to be, but he's still the best player on this team.
He's still damn good.
Yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love that. I mean, you're right. He had one really crazy, amazing, out of the ordinary season batting wise, and everyone was like, "Oh, suddenly that's the new high bar. Like this is where you have to be."
Contract year.
You know what?
That's
you know what?
It, right? It's that.
Right. And I'm
right?
not even.
And that's what everybody.
And I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about it, but the thing is, people who want to dog on him, I mean, he's still a way above average baseball player. I mean, hitter, fielder, just love him for who he is because hating on him doesn't get you anywhere. He's got that money. He's going to cash those checks. So embrace what he brings to this team, even if he's super boring. But, that's aside. But just appreciate what he offers, and he has a lot to offer.
Dan, 3 more years left on the Meyer contract. How do you think Molitor and the Twins organization is going to use him for those last 3 years?
It's going to be interesting because you sort of found yourself in a spot now where Trevor Plouffe has really kind of taken a step over the last year and a half or so. He's a good defensive third baseman now, and you couldn't have said that maybe even a year ago. And the bat is definitely there. So third base becomes tricky because that's where are you going to put Miguel Sano when he comes up? I don't think you want to bring him up to be a DH. His natural position is third base, but he's not a great defensive third baseman, so you hate to move Plouffe out of there. First base is a spot where you normally try to hide guys that are defensively deficient, but you've got $23 million standing on first base right now. So are they going to try and turn somebody into an outfielder? There's certainly a spot in left field that's more than available. Is that going to be someplace you put a Meyer, or do you try and maybe teach Miguel Sano how to shag some fly balls? I don't really know. So defensively, it's going to be interesting to see. You remember very clearly how much Joe didn't want to move out from behind the plate until the concussion issue sort of forced him to. So I wonder how willing he's going to be to move again. So the future is either going to be essentially first base or left field. I sort of think it's going to be at first base because I don't think he's going to want to move, and Twins haven't shown a real propensity to force him to do anything that he doesn't want to do. Where he sits in the lineup is going to vary a little bit. Molitor's clearly seen fit to move guys around in the lineup. But I think, again, him being your best hitter, you're looking at he should be hitting second or third for you on a pretty regular basis. So my guess is that's what you're going to see going forward.
Speaking of Molitor, what has Molly done different than Gardy so far?
That's a good question. The things that are obvious are he's using his bullpen differently than Gardy did. Gardy was real reluctant to use a pitcher for more than an inning at a time. He didn't like pitching guys on back-to-back days if he didn't have to. Molitor's been completely different in that regard. He's thrown guys out there for 2+ innings at a go, and he's shown no reluctance to use guys on back-to-back days if he thinks he needs to, given the situation. So that jumps out at you right away. The other thing is the Twins are doing a lot more shifting this year. And one of the things that they're doing that I found particularly interesting is shifting within an at-bat, where they'll have the lineup in a standard defensive formation for a guy until he gets a strike or two on him, and then you'll see either Trevor Plouffe or Danny Santana move over to the other side and shift against a guy. And I can only assume that they're seeing numbers that say that when a guy gets behind an account, he becomes a stronger pull hitter, and that's why they're shifting at that point. So those are the field stuff that you see right away. In terms of the clubhouse, the feel in the clubhouse is a lot different, and I've talked to several of the other guys who follow the team on a regular basis about that this year. A lot of the credit for that seems to go to Torrey Hunter, but I think some of that goes to Paul Molitor too. It's just a different atmosphere in there, it's a different vibe in there, and it's been very, very positive so far.
Also, Bruce Springsteen. You gotta give credit to him.
Without question. He finally,
right, so
the first couple of weeks that they were home, Molitor hadn't decorated his office yet. So you walked in and it was just blank walls and there wasn't anything going on, whereas Gardenhire had his stuff all over the place. Obviously, he had been there since the opening of the ballpark. And now Molitor's starting to settle in a little bit, and one of the things he has is a pair of guitars hanging on the wall. And I know one of them is a Springsteen guitar. I'm not 100% sure who the other one is, but...
Oh, very cool.
Very nice. So, obviously it seems like Molitor's doing a solid job. I wasn't a big fan of the hiring. I was actually pissing and moaning on Twitter about it. Really wanted Dougie Minkiewicz, or I'm sure he wants to be called Doug Minkiewicz at this point. Any chance that we see him coaching this team?
Minkiewicz, certainly there's a chance down the line. The organization thinks a lot of him. Clearly, he was one of the finalists for the job. And that's only with a couple of years of managerial experience in the minor leagues. So that tells you a lot, I think, about what they think of him, including the fact that they take him from Fort Myers and move him up to Double-A. That wasn't accidental when they knew that their two best prospects were going to be going to Double-A this year. So clearly they think highly of him in terms of molding the Buxtons and the Sanos of the world as well. So there's certainly a chance that Doug will be around at some point. Molitor is older than Gardy. So, it wasn't like they did a big youth movement when they brought Molitor in to manage the club. So there is a question, I think, as to how long exactly Paul wants to do this. So I have no, inside information to base this on, but it very well could be a situation where you see, Molitor hold down the job for 4 or 5 years and then decide he's ready to move on. And at that point, absolutely, I think Doug would be a candidate for the job. That's if somebody else doesn't come along and offer Doug a job first. I mean, I don't think there's any chance that other organizations aren't seeing what he's done both in Fort Myers and what he's doing now in Chattanooga and aren't keeping an eye on him for a potential future managerial opening.
I just saw that Joe Mauer's contract, he gets a $100,000 bonus if he's World Series MVP. Sweet.
So, good for him if that happens.
Well, that'll...
Put it on the board, yes.
Good thing he's collecting the big paycheck and, not relying on that.
All right, Dan, I got one last question for you.
Sure.
Crystal ball, look into your crystal ball. Yeah. 2019, that's going to be the first season where the Twins are done with Mauer. If he's not extended, that's the end of his contract. What is this team going to look like in 2019, 4 years down the road?
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of speculation in this answer, I guess. I have every expectation that Mauer is going to be extended at some point, obviously for a lot less money. But I mean, he doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. This team at that point should be very much competitive, both for a division title and for potentially, making a run in the playoffs. So I would think he's going to want to hang around. But instead of, being the best player on this team, he's going to be more of a grizzled veteran type situation. I think, again, when you see what Torrey Hunter's meant to this club this year, both in the fact that he's actually playing fairly well offensively and defensively, and how the role he's been asked to play in the clubhouse and the role that he's very much embraced in the clubhouse, I think you see Mauer more of a role like that. He's not as gregarious personality-wise as Torrey is, but he has a resume, and that means a lot to young players, when they're around a guy that's been there and has done it. So, again, he's not going to be the best player in the club. Byron Buxton should be the best player in the club at that point. And Miguel Sano, should be amongst the stars of the club at that point. I'm very much intrigued to see some of these young kids, pitching-wise come up, especially Barrios. I got a chance to real briefly chat with him last year at the Futures game, and he's a fun kid. It's going to be interesting. He's not a big guy, so you wonder about whether his stuff will play at the big league level. But, I mean, when you see the numbers that he's putting up in the minor leagues, it's tantalizing, and you really see potential. I don't want to say Pedro because that's the Hall of Fame guy, but that's the comp that sort of comes to mind in the sense that he's got just wicked stuff, and he's this tiny little kid, and you're wondering how in the world a kid that size is able to generate that kind of velocity and that kind of movement. So it's going to be really interesting. I really, I think if you're a Twins fan and you're looking at the very near future, you should be very, very excited because I think this club's going to be pretty good.
And then you can call the Yankees his daddy.
There's always that, right? I mean, the Twins sort of have a bugaboo when it comes to the Yankees, and, the Yankees aren't what they used to be. Who knows? By the time the Twins are competitive again, the Yankees could be right back there battling with them, so.
Oh, come on. By that time, A-Rod will still be around, and he'll be the home run king, and he'll still be hitting 30 dingers a year.
Is there a crazier story in baseball this year than a guy who essentially missed 2 straight years, has surgically repaired hips, has the worst PR team in the history of professional sports, and now he comes right back, and it's like he never left. He's hit the cover off the ball. It's just, I never in a million years would have called that.
I kind of like it because even though he's doing good things for the Yankees, he's sticking it to the Yankees in a way.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely he is. And that's, I don't mind I don't ever mind seeing that happen.
Boom. He's Dan Cook, WCCO radio coordinator, Twins blogger for WCCO.com. Dan, thank you so much for taking some time here tonight and joining us. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet, Ty. Take care.
And that was Dan Cook, That was an awesome interview. I liked it.
It was awesome. He was fantastic.
He got me more excited about Twins baseball than I have in a while. And plus, I don't even know half the names he was talking about. Besides Buxton, Sano, and Meyer, but that's okay.
Well, now you have homework to do.
Such the weird thing about baseball though is that you have to know these names of guys who can't even help you for 4 or 5 years.
Well, you better do your research because we have Howard on next week.
That's a strange thing about like
Howard
the Major
Zinker,
League Baseball.
or no, at Fansview, Howard Zinker, and he's going to school you.
It's a weird thing about the baseball draft, though, because it happens on like a Tuesday with zero fanfare. I don't even think it's on TV except for like MLB TV. And then it's like, hey, we got the number 1 pick. We took a kid out of high school. We'll see him in 8 years. All right.
I know. It's hard. It's like, we're so used to like, the NFL where it's like you come out right away and it's, you're there and you either are or you aren't. And MLB, even sometimes the, NHL are very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It'd be like if we drafted Trey Waynes, it'd be like, hey, you can't play till you're 28. See you then.
Right. And yes, we've wasted 6 years of your, best years of your life. But, hey,
but baseball players can play until they're early 40s. So I guess that's a bit of a trade-off.
Well, right. I mean, football players, successfully cannot.
All right. Di, just to wrap up the show this evening, I have a couple of questions, a couple of follow-ups from the whole Di time parental advice.
All right.
Now, first one is, what is the one piece of advice that you wish you would have gotten as a first-time mother?
Oh, my God. It's hard. Like, it's some of what you have to do is really freaking hard. It's not all sunshine and roses. I mean, I
don't have to push a baby out of my
No, not even that. Like,
parts.
even after the baby's born, like, it's hard work. You are now responsible for a human being, which is kind of overwhelming if you think about it. It's like, oh my God, this is like what I do directly impacts another human being. And it's like crazy. Like nothing can prepare you. You can read as many books as you want. You can take as much advice as you want. Every kid is different, and you just have to trust your instincts. And that's especially true for moms because your motherly instinct is so huge. But dads have them too. And quite frankly, you should probably take the lead from the mom though, because she has she's grown that baby inside of her. So she's got a connection that you at this point don't have, but you will have. And I'm just rambling at this point. Like, stop me. I mean,
Are you sleep deprived now?
No, not yet. I'm sure I will be soon. I have a middle schooler.
I don't think it's going to be that hard because, I mean, Antonio Cromartie has like 12 kids and Adrian has like 7. So I think I could raise one for now.
Well, and they also have like a bajillion dollars that they could pay like nannies and it's just you, dude. You and the missus. That's it. Like, there's no live-in help. There's no, like, it's just the two of you. So.
We have an au pair.
Oh, really?
No.
I didn't think so. But you know what? I wouldn't have wanted one. I mean, even at my most sleep deprived, I was so bonded with my kids that I don't want somebody else raising my kids. I mean, I mean, there are times that you think, oh my God, please somebody take these kids so I can get a rest. But I mean, you don't want someone else to raise your kids. So
I'm going to get yelled at for doing skin to skin in the White Castle parking lot.
Yes, you probably will.
Because that is bonding.
That's not bonding. That's not bonding.
All right. Now, next one. What is the current hot show? Actually, no, better one. How big was your first kid when he came waltzing out?
Thankfully, both of my children were 3 weeks early. And so my son was 6 pounds, 15 ounces. Had he gone full term, and judging from the size of his head now, it would have wrecked me. I had 2 C-sections. So there you go.
So you're saying that everything is intact?
Everything is indeed intact. And C-sections suck. Like, recovery from C-sections, it's extremely painful, and it has ripped my insides up. But
well, yeah, it's basically you get stabbed in the stomach with a knife.
Yeah.
In a bar fight.
And you're awake. it's like, that's the crazy part. Like, you're awake, and with my son, when my water broke 3 weeks early, and I went into the emergency room, and they're like, you're having this baby C-section right now because he was sideways. And so it was like the guy who did my anesthesia, the anesthesiologist, was like trying to like push down on my stomach to get him to like go down. It was the craziest shit ever. It was wild and nothing I ever expected. But yeah, 2 C-sections. It's all good down in the hood. You know, my kids are healthy and happy, and it's all good.
You hear that, everybody? All good in the hood.
Oh, good
Indeed.
for you.
Now, Di, since you're a bookworm librarian, what are some books that you recommend for kids?
Early books?
Yeah.
Goodnight Moon. You cannot go wrong with Goodnight Moon. Pat the Bunny, and don't even go perverted with that, because that's like a childhood favorite of mine, and I will kill you. So Pat the Bunny.
How would you go perverted with it?
Because you're a guy, and you would. Pat the Bunny, Goodnight Moon.
What about if you give a moose a muffin?
Oh yeah, give a pig a pancake. Take a mouse to school. Give a moose a muffin. Did we do that one?
Yep.
Take a mouse to the movies. That whole series is awesome. My personal favorite are any Mo Willems books. Like he does the pigeon books.
Like
so
Mo Williams, and then he'll score 52.
Mo Willems, not Williams.
Oh.
Willems.
Oh.
So don't let the pigeon drive the bus. Don't let
What about
the pigeon stay up late.
Noisy Nora by Rosemary Wells?
Well, you can never go. I mean, Rosemary Wells is a gem, so that's awesome. But seriously, Mo Willems, the elephant and piggy books, the pigeon books, look it up. They are among my favorites. I have a huge crush on him, not just because he's so great with kids, but also because his wife is a school librarian. But yeah, check those out. They're amazing.
Click,
Also,
clack, moo, cowza type.
Oh my God, yes. Doreen Cronin, anything that she does. Click, clack, moo, cowza type, duck for president, doobie doobie moo. Yeah, I could go on.
Now I think you're just making up gibberish words.
But I'm not. Those are real books.
I found the Dr. Seuss's very entertaining. I enjoy his pacing and rhyming.
Okay, so my favorites are Hop on Pop, and Green Eggs and Ham. Hop on Pop, Green Eggs and Ham, 2 of my favorites.
Let's see. Which ones are his? The Lorax one?
Yeah, that's kind of preachy, a little political.
He read Harry Potter?
Of course, I've read all of them.
No, did Dr. Seuss?
Seriously? Did you just ask me if Dr. Seuss wrote Harry Potter?
Yeah.
No.
Fine. I think that's the intro. All right, but
Love you,
we've gone over time. We had too much jam-packed stuff. Once again, thank you to Dan Cook of WCCO for coming in and talking to us, drop some Twins knowledge on a jaded Twins fan and a guy who's now just kind of here. Di, anything exciting for you coming up this week?
Other than we're on the less than 10 days countdown for me to be out of school, and it's freaking awesome.
Yep. Speaking of countdown, programming alert. This may be starting to get into the gray area of when there suddenly might not be an episode on Wednesday because, like I said, both your kids came 3 weeks early. We are in that territory now, as our due date, I believe, was June 11th or the 16th, one of the two. And the woman is the size of a house. Could happen anytime. She looks like Matt Burke before he lost weight.
That is so mean. She's carrying your child. She's a beautiful,
she said that's her
being.
nickname for herself. She is a beautiful being. And
you don't have to agree.
I thought it was funny, though. I'll give her credit there. She's got a good sense of humor.
Well, that
she
is
puts up with me.
I like that. But yes. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to it's going to be some adjustment, but I'll see you through. We'll get through it. We'll, pick it up whenever we need to pick it up.
I've never changed a diaper before, except since we're having a girl, all I've been told is you got to wipe down.
Yes. Wiping down is very, very important.
And we're going to leave you with that little mental image. With me, Purple for the win. We had the mailbag episode today. We had Sam Ekstrom 105 the ticket on Monday. And on Friday, I'm ranking the Vikings 90-man roster 1 through 90 using my special rankings. It's going to be beautiful. Blanton's going to be number 90 because I don't care.
Such a hater.
That is all. I think I just have not a hatred, but a dislike for the worst defensive back at all times. I think that's just me.
No, that's fair.
Like, I never liked Terrell Johnson. I never liked Jamarcus Sanford. I never liked Jimmy Hitchcock, except he was actually pretty okay. But he was the worst out of the group of, like, Dwayne Washington, Robert Griffith, and Orlando Thomas, R.I.P.
Yeah, I know. It was sad.
Yeah, it was sad. But on a happy note, we're out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Andy Must Die. Subscribe, rate us, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, all over the place. The website is always Andy Must Die. I am Andy Carlson, and she is
Di Murphy.
Thanks for listening. Have an awesome week. The chocolate whey powder is way better than the vanilla. Make sure you get up on that. All the various flavors, too, like the Rocky Road, Chunky Monkey, Peanut Butter Cup, which actually is mostly chocolate, but whatever. Just do all that. Don't go vanilla. Live your life, people. All right, bye. Bye tomorrow.
The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, check out soundcloud.com/Deeb.
We needed to get this right.